Hey guys, me again, Orc Slayer. What ifs? Where we last left off? Let's see. Checking. Well, I'm nobody talked about yet, so I'll do one part of the bell. What if to see if you guys like it? If so, tell me if you guys want me to continue the Mass Effect or go ahead and do this series. Anyways, where we start off. The land where Bell, how I typically have it is that where Bell lives beforehand is separated from the land of, from the land where Bell is. And this will be what if Bell was a dragonborn and or had the Thune from Skyrim, or Elder Scrolls 6, or 5, whichever one it is. So, where we're gonna kick this one off at, essentially, before, in the land of Sky, in the world of Elder Scrolls and the lore, thousands of years ago, before any major kingdoms or such, to my knowledge, that arose, they were ruled over by dragons that were worshipped as gods. And they had dragon cults and all this. The top dragon called Alduin, firstborn of Akatosh, which is essentially the head of the pantheon in the Skyrim world, is a pantheon that's still gonna exist. But they themselves won't be like the Zeus or Hestia in them. They will mainly stay up and incorporeal or not taking any physical form. And I'll say the lore reasons for this is because they were the main ones. They created the world as in Skyrim lore they did. But Zeus and all of them were some of the first creations, you could say. As they grew powerful and such, they eventually rose to an even higher They rose to a high status, but the status cannot be the same as Akatosh in them. The Akatosh in them are gods, you could say, and Zeus in them are more along the lines of demigods in comparison. To them, at least. But it's not like they had children of mortals. No, they were just created alongside the mortals, being essentially some of the very first humans to be around. And eventually, through time, they gained strength, and through strength, they grew to godhood, eventually. But Akatosh and them said they weren't allowed to be here, because they themselves are the gods of this land, and that they may take their followers and leave, but they will not be permitted to stay in Tamriel, which is the entire province. So Zeus and all these other gods from all the other religions and such went away out of respect for their elders, quote-unquote. But anyways, as we continue forward, Alduin and the other dragons are very cruel. Well, they themselves just lord over man, while they're, the people that they choose to lead, the dragon priest, who formed a cult around the dragons, like I said, claiming that they themselves were living, breathing gods, or something along those lines. Essentially, what happens eventually is that the dragon priests are cruel, unkind, and become somewhat bloodthirsty. They treat their subjects horribly. Along the lines of, what was his name? I'm trying to remember this ancient king's White King's name. But maybe I'll remember it later. They just treat them very poorly. But anyways, as I continue with that, they all continue forward. The dragons are worshipped. They attack and burn towns at random sometimes, with dragons who war with each other for land and such. And eventually the dragon cult starts getting more brutal in their tactics. They start living sacrifices, all that. Belle is born into just a normal village. Nothing big, mighty, or anything. Not anywhere near any of those major strongholds that the dragon priest would hold. His family lives a normal life. Alduin, well, not Alduin, but eventually this is when I believe it's either Akatosh or Kinnereth, another goddess, or a goddess. Akatosh is the father of dragons, with Kinnereth being the goddess of something other. I can't remember what she's the god of. But anyways, what happens with Bell, well, I'll just have his story go along as it is. He is a human, or specifically, I'd say he's a Breton, which is like a human, like the Nords, which are pretty much just big, tough humans who are used to the cold. So, I guess, I don't know. They're not nice, so they can't be Canadians. But anyways, as Deku grows up, he's not really anything. He just grows up with his family and such. Grows up living next to, little friends of his and such. Every now and then, a few dragon cultists would come through, making sure that nobody is performing any sacrilege, quote-unquote, acts, such as worshipping other gods. They have their, whole, worshipping, they have their worshipping stuff in the right order, essentially being similar to an inquisition. Anyways, with that being set aside, eventually a dragon, even the people of the village somewhat worship the dragons, but they lead simple lives. They tend the fields. They're like a agriculture farm, or like an agriculture village, where they mainly focus on raising crops. So Deku and them grow up raising crops as well. As not Deku, sorry if I've been saying Deku, damn it. Belle grows up listening to the tales of the dragon, and being taught that the dragons are their gods, and that they are to be worshipped as such. That being said, Deku and... fiddlesticks! Belle! Shit! Belle grows up sort of revering them, but feeling some form of a kinship with them, like he's one of them, quote-unquote. Belle grows up rapidly. By the age of 12 or 13, he's pretty tall. Scratch what I said, he isn't a Breton, he's just a human. As he grows up, he actually does develop an interest in becoming what's essentially their standing army, or part of the dragon cult. His parents encourage him to just become a guard. A guard for the village, where he just stand around all day making sure everyone's safe. But he feels there's something greater calling to him, but he can't put his finger on it. He grows, and around the age of 10, I said he was 12, 10, something or other. He and the other boys, around that time, they start growing up, growth spurts and such. And they start roughhousing with each other, along with the guys. The girls be whatever they do. Deku and them still tend the fields and such, so they are pretty strong for 12-year-olds. They're used to hard work, essentially. Belle and them grow up. Belle and his group of friends. There's Belle, Hagar, and I'm coming up with names at the top of my names on the top of my head. So there's Belle, Hagar, and Zach, or Zalok. Zalok. There we go. Two cool names. Hagar and Zalok. Yes. Sorry if that's a name from a dragon priest, but I'm not entirely sure. Zalok and Hagar. Yeah. Zalok and Hagar are Belle's best friend during the entire thing. They would go venturing, quote unquote. They'd run through do things when they're not busy keeping the farms and such steady. Belle and them grow up, as they grow up. They even, Belle starts thinking about just staying here and, raising crops or becoming a guard. Zalok and Hagnar try to, stay on point about becoming part of the dragon cult to become actual warriors. Because they say, the dragon cult is, the toughest around. and that the best are allowed to be there, as well as grow close to the dragons if they grow high enough into the cult, or rise up high enough. Bell thinks about his father or family's word. He doesn't really bring up the topic of joining the military force of the dragon cult. He mainly just does his chores, gets all that done, and goes on with his day as he would. As when he's around 15 years old, he and his friends are quite tall. They're big, tall, and and their fathers have started, Belle's father, seeing that Belle is getting older and taller, encourages him to do more of the farm work. As Belle tries to say, but the other is trying to talk to Belle about, is he taking advantage of you? Belle says, no, not really. He's just getting old, is what Belle says. Because I'll say Belle's father used to be part of the dragon cult, as he explains it to him one day, that he was part of the dragon cult. And during one of their tasks, they were ordered to destroy a village that was supposedly practicing sacrilegious arts. As he's speaking to Belle, he's explaining to him what he had to do. They went into the village, broke into houses, and dragged people out. There was burning and offering up to dragons as punishment, to make up for their sacrilegious deeds, as he says it. He doesn't let it be known of his disdain for the dragons, because he has come to view the dragons as somewhat just bloodthirsty tyrants, and the dragon priests use them as threats to keep people in line. He doesn't want Belle to go down the same road that he had to go down. He wants him to stay on the right path. He has a place here that can do all the stuff he wants. There's becoming a guard, dealing with local problems such as bandits, just pretty much bandits, bears, wolves, giant spiders even. As Belle's wait, giant spiders? It's yes, we got some pretty big spiders. As he explains another time when he was part with the dragon cult, me and a group were sent out to supposedly just take down a brood of spiders. Not a lot from what the people said, and they were quite small. When we got to the front of the cave entrance, there was one about the size of a carriage. Well, even larger, he says, is that there was two about the size of two carriages put together, as they came rushing at him and his people. As a few magicians, not magicians, but magic users, shot bouts of flame at the spiders, trying to quell their numbers, while he and the other warriors went to task taking down the others. As Belle says, he had no idea. His father says he didn't want him to he didn't want the chance of people learning about it, because he knows Belle is pretty close with Hagnar and Zalok. He knows that they're his best friends, but he also understands that they've been encouraging him as well, that the three of you want to run off and join the dragon cult. Just know that I've given you warning. You may even spread what I told you to them. That is what I'm told you. Alright? As he puts a hand on Belle's shoulder, as Belle's yes, father. Good. Now finish your chores. As he starts to walk away, it's this rock joint is gonna kill me one day. As he goes and sits down, it's as Belle tends the rest of the field, sort of taking a little while to separate himself from Zelok and Hagnar. As he talks with some of the guards about becoming a guard, essentially. As the guards say, how old are you? He's I'm 15. He's when you're 17, come back. Until then, maybe we'd have some other things for you to do. It's alright. As Belle runs, was are you done with your work for today? As he's yeah. It's alright. As they hand him swords and other things, he's sure these stay sharp and cleaned. As he pretty much does it as somewhat of a, just cleaning weapons and such is what he takes care of when he's not working on the farm. He spends some time talking with Hagnar and Zalok. Zalok and them, Hagnar, trying to talk with Belle more and more, trying to encourage him to come on, we should go out adventuring. He's I'm sorry guys, I gotta help the guards. as he always has something to tell them why he isn't coming to join them. Eventually, more of those dragon cultists come by, ensuring that people are still following the religion. Except Belle isn't there one day, as Belle's father's like, "Where's Belle?" He's like, "I don't know." As Belle's like staying over where the guards have left a thing of weapons for him to do. As some of the soldiers are coming over, cultists are like, "Why were you not at front with the others?" He's like, sorry, I was..." It's like, never mind. As, like, one of them says, he's tending to the guards' weapons, see? So, carry on, then. As Belle was, like, nervously shaking, because he didn't want to be, like, classified as a heretic. Stab. Or kill, burn, whichever. Snatch, scrap, whip, and a crack. Anyways, as Belle continues on with this line of work for months, years even, as the guards like start to grow accustomed to Belle's like presence, as they like talk with him about duties that he would be looking forward to as being a guard of this place, as they explain that it's nothing fancy, just you go around, guard, check perimeter, deal with wolves, stuff like that. Every now and then we may have a good bandit raid. It's like, mostly what we deal with is petty thievery and drunken brawls. Been a long time since we had a good old bandit raid. And if you get that reference, tell me. Anyways, as Belle continues with this, as eventually the guards are going on a patrol, and they essentially tell like one of them to like give Belle some leather armor as well as a sword. Or a sword, and that's pretty much it. As they like tell him that he's going off, as Belle goes off with this like guard patrol, like he's serious about staying there. And as Belle and them are doing the patrol, they run into like a few wolves and such. As Belle like gets jumped on by one, but he takes care of it. It's like, good job, Belle. Now come on, we got more rounds to make. As they finish their rounds and return home, having another group of dragon cultists around there, as it's like, as the guards say, "Forgive us, my lord," as it's an actual dragon priest, as Belle like gives like a nice bow as well. It's like, "No problem. We have been heard of several reports of heretics possibly sprouting up here. We have come to personally search." It's like, "Very well, my lord. We have seen nothing on the swords during our patrols, but you are free to look." It's like, "Of course I am. Who are you to deny me the right to look?" He's like, "No way, my lord." It's like, "Good." As when Belle goes to walk past him, it's like, "You there. Have you noticed anything strange?" It's like, "No, my lord." It's like, As like Hagnar and Zalok are looking at the cultist soldiers, they're like, "Wow." As Belle looks at them, like walks past, as their armor is like heavy armor, their gauntlets pretty heavy, and they have horned helmets that come off the side, looking somewhat similar to like what's the exact word? The horns are coming off the side of the head, facing forward at somewhat of a slanted angle. It's like a solid iron, put it on there, and it's nice and tough. They carry black swords with, looks like dragon-like engravings and such. Some carry axes, some carry hammers, blah blah blah. So Belle eventually returns as he talks with his parents as like he gets home that night about the whole, thing about going on with the guard and such, and how it's actually pretty nice. As eventually Zalok and them like start trying to put more, actually Zalok and Hagnar actually just stop talking with Belle, as he's like, they would say, "You're too busy," and like somewhat of a anger way, like he's too busy to hang out with us anymore. Well, probably maybe his dad told him not to join it and finally got inside of his head. Is what they're thinking, as Belle has just like thought it more over as he's gotten older. Eventually, like he's almost like at the age of becoming a guard. He's 17, well, almost 17. As one day they're attacked by a group of heretics. As the heretics have been following a group of dragon cultists. Yeah, like this group that's been going around essentially checking every single week or every other week has been tracked by a group of heretics. Their size are about 12. There's about 12 of them. The group of dragon cultists are around 5. Deku and the guards are going off like on a patrol to as they're saying, you're about to turn 17. You could officially become a guard. As they have Bell come over early, as he's made a few friends within the guard. As they present him with his armor, as he puts it on, he's like, oh, it's actually much lighter than I thought. It's like, that's what that's what we ordered for you, Bell. Now come. Let this be your first final trial run as a guard until it's official, until tomorrow. As Bell's like, you got it. As they start walking off their patrol, as there's 5 of them in the little group of guards. As they come across the scene where the dragon cultist and the low-ranked dragon priest are fighting off the heretics, with the heretics having the number advantage. As Bell's like, what should we do? And it's like, I don't know. As the guards are about to rush in, as eventually the dragon cultists see the guards saying, hey, get over here! Shouting over, as Bell looks at the guardsmen, or the guards, as the captain of the guard came out with Bell on this one as well. That way it's a full thing about getting Bell within the I never really gave his name his village a name, so just the village guard captain. He's like, Bell's try to stay behind us. As it's like, you got it, Captain. As he draws his sword and shield, as it's like, alright, let's help these cultists and show them how we gods do our business. As the dragon priest fires off a fireball, blasting several of them in the back. But the heretics have their own wizard, as he cancels it with a ward, to take the blast. As the guards are moving forward, the dragon cultists feel a burst of confidence, as they too jump over where they were hiding and start rushing in, as they were being hit with magic and arrows. As they have their shields up, and so does the guards, Bell and them rush forward and charge right into these heretics. As the heretics have some subpar armor. They got just leather and fur armor. It's essentially all they got. As they are pretty much ran through with their swords. As Bell tries to help the guards, as he's kind of tall. And pretty buff, you could say. As he been carrying around of heavy stuff for the guards. Pretty much stuff like that. As when the first heretic comes over, as they see Bell, as this heretic is pretty large, taller than Bell, large, as he stands 2 feet taller than I'll say Bell's 6, not 6, 5'11". Yeah, I think that's pretty good amount of size for anyone who doesn't have the proper nutrition, as people typically did back then. So he's I think it was 5'8", 5'6" is how big tall people typically were back then. So I'll say this guy's around 6'6", and Bell's 5'11", or 5'11" seems pretty good. As Bell used his sword and shield to fight this guy with his giant with a giant hammer. As Bell was trying to move out of the way of the hammer, or trying to use the shield to absorb it, as when the guy hits his shield, it just shatters. As Bell's oh my god. As he's on the back foot, moving backwards, as this guy's swinging his hammer around, saying, "Die, dog! Down with the dragons!" As he's swinging his hammer, Eventually, he like swings too wide as he loses his footing. Bell just thrusts forward as it catches the guy in the neck as he's like, as he grabs onto the sword, as then he grabs onto Bell. As Bell is like stumbling backward as he falls backward with the guy landing on top of him. This guy was an actual like heavier armor with some like chainmail and such, with a few things of like steel like little plates. As when that guy went down, eventually the rest of the warriors fell much easier. As a dragon cultist was lost and one of the guards were injured severely. As Bell's like throws this guy off him, as it's like, "Are you okay, Bell?" It's like, "Yeah," but he like grabs onto his arm. "I think he broke my arm." Ugh. As like he broke it, he like hit straight through my hammer. As he's like his arm is like clutched to his chest. And it's like, "It's okay, Bell. We'll have the healer at the village take care of that for you." As then they speak with the dragon cultists, talking with them about how did this happen, how were they caught off guard, it doesn't make much sense. As the dragon cultists say that they don't know, they all weren't there one second, then the next they were all just like all over the place. They try to think about could it be invisibility potions, but they don't think that's quite likely. Those are expensive to make or even expensive to buy. As they say, what about the mage? Could it be that he himself had some invisibility magic? As they say, they aren't too sure. Anyway, as Bell's like recovering or like somewhat shell-shocked from that experience, the guard captain's like, "It's okay, Bell. Don't worry. We'll get you home. As far as test went, you did good." I'll say as he's like, "It was a giant of a man, even compared to me and you." As the guard captain is quite large as well. It's like, "So, we'll return home and get you checked out, alright?" As he's like, "Yes, sir." As the dragon priest notices Bell, like how well Bell did, quote unquote, with him thinking is he like naturally gifted when Bell was in all reality just like backing up, trying not to get smashed in the head. As he's like, "What is your name?" He's like, my name's Bell." It's like, "Well, Bell, good job. We could always use more in the ranks like you." As he walks away, as the other cultists are like sort of mouths are kind of open, he's like, "Did he just give praise to some?" As when they're about to say it, as he looks back, "Move. We have other villages to go to." As he goes off on his way, as Bell and them return to the village, as when they were talking with the dragon priest about what to do with the bodies, he says that they will burn them. Simple as that. As for their belongings, we'll burn them too. As Deku and them like left back to the village, as Bell is still clutching his arm is still tight to his chest, as he has his sword at the ready, as it's like, "Calm down, Bell." It's like, "Sorry, it's just kind of nerve-wracking thinking about it." It's like, "Don't worry, nothing else should jump out us aside from like maybe a wolf or two. Aside from that, with our numbers, they shouldn't even come at us." Like, you got a point. As Bell puts his sword away and they walk home. As Bell and them return, like one of the more heavily injured guys is being dragged along. Well, not dragged along, but has been brought along, and Bell's arm is broken. As they get themselves checked out at the temple, or like the healer. As the healer recommends that, as he has healing magic, he uses it on Bell that eases the pain and heals his arm a bit. But he leaves it there a little bit to like let Bell he doesn't believe that he should heal everything completely. He thinks that some people should get used to the pain, as he allows Bell to heal naturally. Zoak and Hagnar eventually set off to go join the dragon cult. As they go off, as Bell speaks with his parents about that, like what happened with the heretics, quote unquote, as he explains what happened with that. His father asks him if he's alright. He says that it's nothing much, just my arm got hurt. As Bell's father thinks, As he thinks to himself that the guards could train him, but maybe he could train him a bit better. He thinks it over and then, like, eventually has Bell, like, helps Bell train a bit. As Bell fights with a sword and shield while his father fights with a very big sword. As his father fights with Bell, like, training Bell, as he also has his, like, old armor, excluding the helmet. As he and Bell fight, like, practice, he eventually, like, Bell gets used to it. Until eventually some major things happen, like, say, some of the other places are in open rebellion. Like a few places that have a few dragon priests that has turned to rebellion, rebelling against his dragon overlords. Some say, like, maybe he's a heretic, others saying maybe he isn't. Doesn't really know, as sometimes dragon priests have been known to attack other places or even rebel at the behest of their dragon overlords. But very few. In the entire time that it has happened, only 2 times has it ever happened. And never, ever has it ever succeeded. So what makes this person think he's different? He is unsure. As then eventually, like, when the dragon cult needs more men, Bell, the one dragon priest, dragon priest remembers Bell's village. And as they, like, talk with Hagnar and Zolok after he learns about how they came from there, he and several others eventually go there and pretty much conscript, like, women and, like, the boys and the girls, who are, like, 17 or older, aside from, like, the adults who have, aside from just the adults, because they realize the importance of this place. So they'll leave enough to, like, keep growing the crops and deal with all that. But as for the guard situation, there hasn't been much heretic movement. So Bell is essentially, as Bell, like, tries to ignore it, he's essentially commanded by higher up in the Dragon Priest that if he doesn't come, he will have him declared for a heretic. As Bell takes, like, acknowledgement of this, he gives his goodbyes to the to the guards, and bids them a farewell. As Bell has done very well. And that time that Hagnar and Zolok had left, it had only been technically 3 months. As Bell actually did try to reconcile his friendship with them, as it was going well, until they eventually started to, like, try and convince him again. He explains that he knows his place, and his place is here. As for them, if they feel like that their calling is to the dragon cult, then so be it. As he, like, gives them, as when they left, he gave them something. It was a couple of rings. One had a red stone, one had a blue stone, and one had a yellow stone. Well, green stone. There we go. As the green stone went to Zolok, the blue one went to Hagnar, and the red one went to Bell. He's like, you guys have been my best friends for years. Hopefully you guys will do well. And try to remember us when you guys get big. Like, trying to get them to stop sending so many cultists around here. Seems to draw heretics. As he says that joking, it's like, we'll try, Bell. As Bell pulls him in for hugs, and sorry guys about ditching you for so many years. It's like, it's no problem, but we gotta go now. As it's like, good luck. It's like, good luck, Bell. As within that few months, Bell did really well. There were a few bandit attacks, like the good old bandit raid, as Bell helped fend those guys off, which it was pretty easy. They would just attack one of the farms on the outskirts, with Bell and the guards quickly responding, as Bell, like, was some of the first to get into action. With his sword, he, like, broke through, like, one bandit had a hammer as he raised it up to defend himself. Bell brought it down, and it cut straight through the hammer, as Bell then, like, sort of thrust it forward, as then he, like, pretty much got the guy right in the stomach. He throws him off his sword, moving forward and bashing a guy with his shield, as then he slices him in the face. The bandits are taken care of quickly, as Bell's, like, known as the staunch protector of them, as he, like, is the first into action and is like one of the ones who like take the challenges head on. Like, for instance, there was this giant spider. Well, not a giant spider. Yeah, a giant spider had been knowing like terrorizing like other towns. So Belle and some of the local guards were rounded up to like take care of it. A lot of stuff happened in that 1 week. And Belle and them took care of like a lot of serious problems. Even at one point taking another guard and running into a troll. As Belle fought the troll and took him down, with the guard surviving with some injuries. As well as Belle. He got like smashed right into the chest with the troll's claws. As it like tore like a little bit of his armor, Belle bashed it, like sort of turned his shield sideways, chopped it right in the neck, and then like sort of just sliced it. Like sliced the leg and then sliced upwards into its face. As it laid there, as Belle's like, "You okay?" It's like, "Yeah, thanks, Belle." As it's like, I guess that takes care of that. Bastard jumped down right on us, didn't it, Belle? It's like, "You got that." Trophy? Is what the guy says, like, "Well, we could just take it and say we killed a troll. They offer bounties for these. Let's just take the head." As he's like, "Alright." As Belle and them return to, like, the village has grown in, like, several years, so it's become more along the lines of a small city. As Belle and them have prepared that. Sorry. Belle and them recognize this as Belle gets, like, a bonus and, like, starts being called the Troll Slayer. As the other guy calls trolls prey. As he was, like, as he, like, told how the troll knocked him on his backside, with Belle rushing in and, like, bashing the creature back. So that becomes Troll's Prey and Troll's Bane. Or Troll's Bane or something, I don't know. Till eventually they're called up to be conscripted. Belle's eventually taken off, and they go to fight this rebellion. As Belle is armored up in some pretty nice armor. He has his sword and shield, and he talks about how some of these parts are, like, open for no reason. Like, between the arms and the shoulders, there's, like, a massive openings between, like, in the middle of the upper arm for no reason. Then he talks about how his legs are open, like, on his, like, thighs and such are opened as well. An archer could easily shoot him in the leg and hamper his movement. It's just like, then don't get shot, Belle. And it's like, oh, so what? You guys are gone for 3 months. You guys claim to be my superiors? That's like, we are, though. And they're like, yeah, whatever. Let's just take the city and let's just end the rebellion so that way we can go home. As they're put in, they are not put in charge, but they're put under the command of a dragon priest, or a dragon commander, or whatever. Not a dragon commander, but a commander of the cultists. As they talk about how they're going to storm the city. As they prepare, and they got, like, not siege engines, but they got a sort of ram, I forget what ram, and ladders and such, stuff like that. As then a dragon, like, flies overhead. And it's like, oh, it seems we have been graced with the presence of a dragon, my men. Pay homage. As, like, everyone kneels down. Everyone, like, kneels down, like, in the presence of the dragon. As the dragon lands on a cliffside overlooking the battle. As Deku and them are like, alright, take the city! As it's like a whole, like a roar of, like, excitement, quote-unquote. As eventually they start, like, take to the walls. Belle and them are in the reserves. Like, they aren't expecting, like, to be called in. But as they soon learn, several dragon priests, well, not dragon priests, but several soldiers are highly adept with magic. As of, like, soldiers going on the walls are easily thrown back with fire and lightning and frost. Until eventually they break down the giant gates, as then they start storming the fortress. Belle and them eventually are called up saying that they are to support the left. As they make their way over quickly, as, like, with 100 people, they rush up and they start, like, reinforcing. As when the soldiers as they were running by, They see soldiers with swords put through them just lying in the streets. A few guys are just on their backs. A few of them are injured. Some of them are already looting. They are just rushing forward, trying to meet the front, try to like help assist, push the front. As Bel's like, Hagnar, Zalok, remember, let's work together and let's go. And then then all of us can go home. She's like, yeah, Bel, you got it. As they start pushing forward, as they immediately, like, Deku's like, there's a break right there. As they rush forward, and they use their shields, as they, like, bash right into it. As Bel and them force the troops back, as then they start slicing and smashing, as Hagnar uses a hammer. As he smashes, like, straight through the forces. As in, Zalok has a bit of magic, as he was found to be adept with some magic, or have some knowledge of how to use it, or is just gifted, with an axe, as Bel's pushing with his sword and shield. As he impales one dude, as then when he loses grip of his sword, he's like, dang it! As he's like being pushed back, he's like, guys, I don't have a sword, I need a weapon! As then he sees on the ground, like, where one dude's been impaled, Deku reaches down, grabs the cultist sword. Hair. As then he just lets out a roar, forward! He noticed, like, everyone was starting to break, like, the 100 of them were, like, fighting against, like, 200, or even 3. It's a very large battle. As Deku lets out a roar, do not falter, brothers! Like, trying to get everyone riled up by appealing to their brotherhood. As he's like, brothers, sisters, we do not falter. We do not fall and we do not break. Drive the heretics back. As he pushes with his might, as Hagnar and Zalok push forward, Zalok using a spell called Chain Lightning. As he uses it, if people are close to each other, it, like, chains into it, hitting them. As he uses it, it takes out almost over half a dozen people. As then Bel pushes forward, slicing one guy. As then people start seeing them making this valiant push. As they push forward, Deku and them are like, come on! As they push through, eventually breaking the center, leading that to a whole flood of reinforcements rushing forward. As Bel and them are like, forward! As they're like pointing their swords and like banging their shields, like, for the, whatever you would call it, the dragon culture, whatever. As they push forward, they eventually breach into, like, they're making their way into the inner city, with Deku and them told that they are to be diverted back, so that way they may earn some rest. They expect the city to fall by tomorrow. As Deku and them are like, oh, yes, my lord. As they retreat back to the back of the lines, as they've taken the lower city. As Deku and them sort of like, so, I was not expecting that, is what Deku says. Well, not Deku. Fuck, have I been saying Deku this entire time? I mean Bel, please, forgive me. I'm sorry for all those who hear Deku, I mean Bel. Shoot, I've tried to say Bel. Come on, think about this, Deku. Oh, not Deku. It's Bel. There we go. Bel. Sorry. Trying to nail in my head. This is Bel. What if Bel? As Bel and them push forward, well, not push forward, since they like that little push, they're allowed to retreat to the outer city, as they're like given a break. As then it switches to like a siege, as the followers inside the city are starting to panic. The heretics, quote unquote, are launching arrows and even have some catapults, as the dragon is still taking watch over this. As Bel and them are like talking, Bel's like, this is so annoying, I just want to return home. As it's like, you'll get your chance to return back to your boring post, Bel, so don't worry about it. As it's like, whatever you say. As then eventually this dragon that's been watching over them flies up and it's like the dragon's leaving. As like, what? As they look over, it's flying towards the city. Several of them thinking the dragon's coming to help. But he looks down to the lower districts as Deku and them are like, wait, what is it? As then he lets out a giant bout of fire, just catching several houses on fire. Deku and them are like, what? Not Deku. Bell and them saying, what the? As they like start trying to rush and like see what's happening, they see the dragon breathing fire on the lower grounds. It's like, why is he doing that? As they're like, everyone out of the city. As when they try to leave, he smashes he throws a fireball at the gate, causing the thing to collapse. As Bell and them like, we're trapped. As Bell's like, oh, what do we do? What do we do? Is what Bell's saying. Hagnar and Zalog are like, I don't know, Bell. Why we follow you? It's like, let's find the priest. As they like rush off. And that's where I'm going to end this one off at. I hope y'all have enjoyed it. Hope y'all continue to enjoy it. And I hope y'all have a nice day, nice night, nice life.